So let's start today's session. Once again, good evening, everyone. I hope you had a great day and thank you for joining in. So, what we're going to be talking about today won't take long. So, we are going to be building on what we learned yesterday. So, yesterday we looked at service and port binding. We talked about two scenarios. The first being when the service is binded to all interfaces, and the second scenario is when the service is binded to a specific interface. So by now, the task that was assigned to us today also covered this, and tonight we'll be building on it and explain it further. So today we'll be looking at port forwarding, or we call it port tunneling. As I said again, today we'll be looking at port forwarding, or you call it port tunneling. So what we aim to achieve by this is, let's say you have a particular service that is running locally on a remote server. Then you need to make that service available to you, to your own end. Then what you do is to port forward or port tunnel that particular service from that server to your own local system. I'll go over that again. When we try to do port forwarding, we say, for example, a particular service is running on a server. Then you need to access that same service on your own local system. So you can tunnel that service from the remote server to your own system. When we do the demo for this, I think we understand it better. So start, I will share my screen, then we can go through what I mean. What's my screen? Okay. Is my screen visible enough for you guys? Okay, thank you. So we are going to be using the remote server, we using our configuration file. So I'll connect to the VPN. I think I have my VPN at this. Yeah. So once I'm connected, then I'll log in to the remote server. And yes, so now we are logged into the remote server. Yesterday we talked about using netstats and SS to check running services. So what we are going to be doing is we'll use netstats, then use the switches to check the running service. Now I've made changes to the server since I wanted to use it for tonight's demo. So if you check, according to the questions you have to answer today, you have a service running on port 8000, you have the IP address, you have port 80, the IP address. But if you notice now, we have another service running on port 4000, but this time is running on the local host on this system. That means if I run nmap localhost, if I could type, I see that we have port 4000 open. If you run nmap 127.0.0.1, which is sent as localhost, you can see we have port 4000 open. But if we try to run nmap on other interfaces, like I have this 10.8.0.1, now we run, you can see that we have the other ports open, but now we don't have port 4000 running on this one. And since this service is running on this server locally, that means it can't be accessed from outside. So let me demonstrate that. So now let's do nmap, then try to scan this network. I will compare the results. It's taking some time. Okay, anytime now. Okay, looks good. Okay, now it's back. So now we can see that on the server, we can see that this particular interface 10.8.0.1 has this port open, and also it has the same port open when we scan from our local machine. So what we mean by port forwarding is we want to forward the port 4000 running locally on this server to our own local machine. What I mean by that, so when I do it, maybe you understand it better. So to do this port forwarding, or you call it port tunneling, we are going to be using SSH to do that. So similar to the way we log in by SSH using this command, we are going to be adding a few switches. Switches, we are going to be using the L switch basically to tunnel, and it's better to read what the command does. You can read the manual for SSH. If you check here, you see that, let me try to bring this down. You see that the dash L switch takes an address. So what we will do is to tunnel this port. Now, if I do something quickly, if I run nmap localhost, which is my own local system, you can see that I don't have any ports open at the moment. Everything is closed. Then we're going to do SSH. So before running this, I'm going to add a couple switches. We add the dash L switch. Now the port we want to forward from the remote system is port 4000 and is running on the local interface. So we give it the local interface. Then the port we want to forward it on our own system will also be 4000, and the the username and the IP address. So same way, it's going to ask you for the password. And now once you are logged in, I'm going to be doing this. No, now if you noticed earlier, when I scanned my local hosts, I do not have any port open, everything is closed. So if we do the same thing again, scanning the local host, you can see that we have ports 4000 open. Now that we have port 4000 open on my local host, you can then open your browser, and I can go to localhost port 4000 on my browser, and you can see that I get a page back. So what this is doing is, oh, I don't know if you guys see that. Let me share it. You can see that I get this page back. If you guys can see it. Okay. So what we basically did is any request you send, any request we make to localhost port 4000 on our own system, local system, is being tunneled or forwarded to the remote server on that port 4000. So you are just like taking the service on the remote system and you are turning it into your own system. So any request that comes from it, you get the results. Any request you send to the port is being processed by the remote server. So I don't know if you guys understand that. If you have any questions, kindly ask. Can I show the command again? Okay, so I will show the command again. Now to do that, I will close this. I'll queue this here. I'm going to queue this. Okay. So what I said, the command is the same command used to log into SSH, but now the syntax will change because you had a couple switches. So the dash L switch means you want to tunnel a local address, and the service is running on port 4000 as we saw on the server. So going back here, you can see that we have this service running on 4000. So this is the particular port we want to tunnel to our own system. So we can then tunnel the port 4000, and the address is running on, which is the local address 17.0.0.1, then to port 4000 on our own local system too. Then give it the username and the IP address. and it's going to ask you for the password as usual. Type that correctly. Okay, let me type that. Okay, now if you run mmap again on your own local system, you can see that you have the port open. Then you can go ahead and visit the ports from your own browser. Port 4000 open on the server. Yeah, I think that's what I just showed. Let me do that again. Yeah, if you check this, the server, I don't know, I'm logged into the server. Then on the server, if I run net start tulmp, you can see that we have, if you look here closely, I have it highlighted. You can see my screen. I have this highlighted. Okay, so if you can see the one I have highlighted, you can see that port 4000 is open and is running on the local interface. You can also confirm by using nmap 127.0.0.1 on the server. You can see that you have port 4000 open on it. But if you do an nmap on the 10.8.0.1 from your own local system, it won't be open because that particular port is not binded to all interfaces. It's only binded to the local interface on the server. So what we are trying to achieve is tunneling that particular port to our own system. So we can make requests to it from our system and it will get processed by the server. Do you have another question? How do I open and close ports? Okay. To open this port, what I did was I used Apache. So using Apache, you can, I think I can't use on this account. I will exit from this. Then a minute. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Now I can do this. This is running slow. Then apt. Uh, Sorry, this is running real slow. etc Apache 2. Then I want to open the ports. Yep. Do I have the ports? Okay. So if you look close and carefully, you can see that I have this address open and is running on port 4000. So since the server is up and running, that's why I have port 4000 open. So to close ports, you have a couple of options to close ports. You can either use the kill command to close ports, or you can use the fuser command like I use often. So let's say I have this port running on my local system. I have port 80 open, for example. Then I can go ahead, if I want to kill this port, I can use fuser command, and it has a couple switches. Then you give it the ports you want to close, and it will consider that the ports will just die. So that's one way you can close ports, or you can look at the kill command or the kill command to kill processes. Okay, do we have more questions? Okay. So guys, if you have questions, kindly drop them Basically, that's what we'll be looking at today. Is just how to tunnel or how to forward ports from the remote server to our local server. So if you have questions or it's not clear enough, kindly tell me. Do you guys want me to go over it one more time? Or should I just say we'll understand? Okay, so why would we want to tunnel a port? That's a good question. Why would you want to tunnel a port? Let's say, for example, you are in a real engagement, for example, then you have a particular service running locally on the server, and the server doesn't have a GUI. So if you check back to our own server, there's no GUI. So it's not possible for you to get something like this. So you can't get something like this since there's no GUI. You can't open a browser to look at what is running on the web server, for example. So one of the things you can do is to tunnel that particular port to your own system. So if you tunnel it to your own local system, then you can use your browser to open it any way you want. So tunneling is just like the service is running locally, then just want to access it from your own local system instead of accessing it from the remote server directly. Ini, do you understand what I just said? Okay. Then how long to submit today's tax? You have to submit it before tomorrow's evening. Then yesterday's tax should have been submitted by now. Okay, I think most people are just joining in, so I'll try to go over what we did one more time. Then if we don't have any other questions, we can call it a day. So what I said we'll be doing today is post tunneling or port forwarding. And what you are going to do is, from what we learned yesterday, we know how to check services that are binded to interfaces. So we are going to log in again to our server, and we'll run the net start command or the ss command, anyone you choose. And you can see that you have a port 4000 open, but it is binded to the local interface on the remote server. So what we want to do is, if you use mmap to scan this IP address on the local server, on the remote server, you can see that port 4000 is open. But if you use mmap to scan the server address, which we have been doing, you can see that the address will be closed for this. So let's just wait for this scan to finish. Okay, now it's done. So you can see that port 4000 is closed on this IP address, but is open on the remote server locally. So what we want to do is to tunnel or forward that port from the remote server to our own system so we can access it. And except to do that, we can use the SSH command like we used to, but this time we'll be adding a few switches. You can use the -L switch, which means you want to tunnel a local port, and we know the service is running on port 4000, and the interface is running on is 127.0.0.1, and we want to forward it to port 4000 on our own system too. So using this syntax, before I do that, let me show you this. Currently on my local system, you can see I don't have any ports open. But now once we tunnel this and you enter the password, then if I do mmap my localhost again, you can see I have ports 4000 open and it's running. Then to check whatever is running on that port, you can use your browser. From a browser, yeah. Then go to localhost and the port is 4000, and you can see it's running an Apache web server default page. So is there any security disadvantage? No, not really. It's actually, the way it actually works is, you have, let's say you have a particular server and you have a particular service running in your infrastructure, and you don't want it to be open to the public. So that's one way you can just make the service available locally in your own company or infrastructure. So you as a penetration tester, for example, you are not necessarily inside the infrastructure and you want to access the service from outside. So you can port forward the service from the local infrastructure and forward it to your own local system. So you can access it from your own local system, and any request you make will be processed by the remote server. Do we have any other questions? So that's the idea of port forwarding or port tunneling we want to talk about. So if you have questions, kindly drop them so we'll go over them. It will be uploaded as soon as possible and I will share the link with us. Okay. Okay. If it's clear, I think that will be the end of today's session. Thank you once again for joining and we'll continue the discussion on the group chat. Bye.